Hello, everybody. Happy Victory Monday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Matt Citak with you, taking your calls at 201-939-4513. Giants defeat the Colts 45-33, and I know what the fans want today, so I'm going to address that right away before we get to the game. So let's just talk about what all the tweets I've gotten over the past 24 hours seems to want to discuss. Guys, here's where we're at. I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with you. Is it a good thing that the Giants no longer hold the first overall pick in the draft? No, it's not a good thing. You'd obviously rather hold the first pick than hold the fourth pick. It's better for the franchise. No question about it. 1,000%. If you want to be upset about that, I totally understand. Not going to argue with you about it. It logically makes sense. All that is true. No argument. It puts you in a tough spot now. If you want a quarterback, you might have to trade up for one. You might not be able to trade up for one. We saw that last year with the Giants. So that is a distinct possibility. It could be painful long term. It might hurt the franchise long term. Absolutely, 100%, no argument. All that is true and possible. Citak, any disagreement with any of that?
Nope.
Okay. That being said, okay, I'm going to give you two different halves of this cake to try to make you feel a little bit better. The first one, I'm just going to give the perspective from the building. This isn't going to make you feel better necessarily, but I should just give you the facts of the situation. There was no way to avoid this. If Joe Shane could go back in a time machine, and even Brian Dable could go back into a time machine to last year and not win two of those games with, Tommy DeVito late in the year, and they could be sitting here with Jaden Daniels and Drake May, I'm sure they would probably go and do that. But you know what? That's not how the world works. And you can't manufacture losses in the National Football League. That's not how any of this works. You can't do it. So while it's frustrating, and I understand why you're angry, and I'm not telling you not to be angry. You can call me up and be angry. I'm cool with all of that. It's fine. This is just the way it is. There's no other option. There was no switch you could flick that could make things go another way. These coaches and players come in here every day, work their asses off to try to win football games. The players are playing for their careers. The coaches are coaching for their careers and their jobs. Everyone is hired and paid to win football games. That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try their best. They're going to try their hardest to win football games. That's not going to change. Nothing's going. That's just the way it is. And when that happens, even if you're a bad team like the Giants are this year, you're going to win some football games. That's just how it goes. And there's no way to avoid it. So I get being mad. And I've told the story before. I'm going to go back to the 2017 Knicks season, where the Knicks were having literally their worst season in franchise history. I believe that was the last. Was that David Fizdale, or was that the last? That might have been. I think that was the Fizdale, one of his years. And the Knicks had a late game against the San Antonio Spurs, and Tim Hardaway Jr. scores like 48 points, and the Timberwolves get the top ping pong ball odds, and they get Karl Anthony Towns. The Knicks pick third. They get Kristaps Porzingis. I was really mad, so I get where you're coming from. But the Knicks were trying to win basketball games. Tim Hardaway Jr. got hot from three at like 8 threes in that game, and that's the way the ball bounces, and it happens. There's nothing anyone can do about it. No one did anything wrong. That's just the way it goes. And that's sports.
Look at
right?
the Knicks now.
And look at the Knicks now. They might have Karl Anthony Towns anyway. But it's only one game behind the Celtics, by the way, Pearson. We're creeping on you. But Citak, so again, I get being upset, but that's not how anyone in this building is thinking. You go around, everyone in the players and coaches realm are thrilled today walking around the cafeteria. I'm joking around with some of the assistants. We're actually able to talk about good plays after games instead of like, oh, can you believe that happened? You're like, oh, how about your guy breaking 3 tackles and running for a touchdown? It's just a completely different vibe. And you saw the Giant players' tweets from yesterday about how it was important for them to get the win. Even the fans in the crowd yesterday, they were excited for a Giants win. A lot more people were in the building than I thought there would be, to be totally honest with you, and they were into it. They were enthusiastic about the win. So that's just the facts of the situation. I get the anger. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but that's just where we're at.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. Again, I understand why fans are waking up today an upset. Makes perfect sense. It's been a very frustrating season. The season has not gone how anyone in this building would have liked, but it sort of seemed for a while that, at least at the very end of this, the Giants would have the first pick, and no longer looks like that's going to be the case, barring some unforeseen circumstances and things that, quite frankly, we don't expect to happen.
And for the fans that aren't tracking it, by the way, right now the Giants have slotted into the 4th spot.
The Giants have the 4th pick. They're tied with the same record as the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns, and the Tennessee Titans. The Cleveland Browns have a matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. With the Ravens need to win in order to clinch the AFC North.
And I believe that is a Saturday game. So the Ravens are going to have to play that.
Yes, that is the first game on Saturday. I expect Cleveland to lose that game because Baltimore is the biggest favorite of the entire NFL season. I think. And by the way, it was like an 18-point spread, which is crazy.
And Cleveland beat Baltimore earlier this year, so there's a revenge factor involved in that game too.
Yeah. So Cleveland, honestly, probably going to lose. New England, we'll see. They're playing a Bills team that has nothing to play for, but Jared Mayo indicated today that they're not 100% if Drake May is going to play.
Oh, is that true? I didn't see that.
I think that might just be we have the number 1 pick. It's week 18. We've already seen enough from Drake May. Let's just, I'm not going to say phone it in, but, not risk injury to the franchise rookie quarterback who I think got a little banged up on yesterday.
Yeah.
Or Saturday.
Yeah, he was tested for a concussion in the first half of that game. He cleared, he came back, but he the way he runs, he gets banged up.
And we've seen players come down with concussion-like symptoms a day or 2 days after the game. So we'll see about that. And Tennessee is playing a Houston Texans team that is solidified in their playoff seeding. They have nothing to play for. So we don't know what Sunday's, this upcoming weekend's outcomes are going to be. We don't know where the Giants are going to end up in the draft. But again, I can understand the frustrations from the fan side, but everything you said nails it on the head. We've been saying this for weeks, for months, honestly, that everyone in this building has been continuing to try to win football games. That's what the players, that's what the coaches, front office personnel, everyone gets paid to try to do their part in helping the team win. So honestly, the way that the season has gone, it felt like the Giants were sort of due for a performance like this. I don't know if anyone is expecting, the most points in a game in almost a decade.
Oh no, it's inexplicable what happened on Sunday, but that's why football's awesome.
Yeah. But to be honest, and again, not trying to downplay anyone's anger or frustration, but if there's anyone to be angry or frustrated at,
it's the Colts.
Directed at the Colts.
Yes,
the Colts had their season on the line, the playoff hopes on the line, and they came in and basically rolled over. I mean,
it was the worst tackling performance I've seen all year.
Yeah, that was...
And we've seen some bad tackling from the Giants.
Yes, the Giants' defense has not been great this year, but what we saw from the Colts yesterday was the worst defensive performance I think I've seen in a game all season. So if there's anyone to be angry at, direct it towards them.
I mean, go look at Pat McAfee's tweet. I don't know if you've read that Pat McAfee tweet.
I saw it.
It's something.
Yeah, and he's right. He's totally right. So again, I understand where the frustrations are coming from, but at the end of the day, the Giants won. The results are the results. I think for us and for you at home, let's try to focus on some of the bright spots from this game.
Yes.
Malik Neighbors, for the first time in a long time, looked like that stud receiver that we saw in the first week of the season.
And he was kind of building up to this too, but it finally kind of hit the crescendo.
He finally exploded. And, early in the season, there were a lot of comparisons with the start that he had with Malik Neighbors and a guy like Jamar Chase. Well, yesterday was the best Jamar Chase impersonation I've seen from Malik Neighbors by far this season. The way
it was very Jamar Chase.
He was able to break tackles, the way he was with the ball in his hands, yards after the catch. I think he had like the 3rd highest yards after the catch of any player this season.
Yep.
According to Next Gen Stats.
Oh, is that true? Wow, I didn't see that. Okay.
Let me just get the 3rd most. Oh, sorry. It was the yards after the catch over expected.
Oh, okay.
From Next Gen Stats, the 3rd most in a game this season.
Well, it makes things look a lot easier when you can catch a ball at the line of scrimmage and break 3 tackles and run 50 yards for 2 touchdowns.
So that was an encouraging performance. Tyrone Tracy, while it didn't, the end of the game stat line didn't, look amazing. He showed his explosion on that 40-yard run, got him over to 1,000 yards for the season. As we know, they are the first rookie teammates to get 1,000 yards of offense in almost 20 years. Only the third to ever do it.
You got it.
Drew Phillips, another member of this rookie class, got his first interception. Like, there are bright spots.
You could put that interception in Brian Burns' column, by the way. Because, yes.
And
about time.
Talk about another one. Brian Burns,
he had
again.
a great game. Ooh,
he
played
didn't
great.
end up with a sack, but he was in the backfield. It felt like almost every single play. He was
played a great
impacted in the run game. He is a stud and someone that obviously is going to be a building block of this team moving forward. So there are some bright spots to come out of this. And I know everyone's going to, focus on the draft position. And quite frankly, I don't blame you with how the season has gone. But the only thing I will say towards that is, first of all, just because the Giants won this game does not mean that come April 24th, 25th, whenever the draft begins, that does not mean that they won't still be picking with that number one pick. Because there are things called trades that we all know. And yes, it might cost a lot more now for the Giants to go and get that franchise quarterback if they fall in love with one of these quarterback prospects, which we don't even know for sure if that is or was going to be the case. But if the front office is sold on one of these QBs, they can still go out and try to trade for that number one pick.
The Patriots are not picking a quarterback.
The Patriots have the first pick, and assuming they lose to Buffalo, which it looks like it's headed that way, they are guaranteed the number one pick, and they are not picking a quarterback. They would love to probably trade down, stay inside the top 4, and get, whether it's Travis Hunter or the Arizona receiver, get a guy like that while stockpiling some picks. So it is still possible for the Giants to land their franchise quarterback. Granted, as I said, might cost a little bit more, but as John and I have spoken about for weeks, almost all season, there's no price too high to pay to go and get the guy that you think can be your franchise quarterback. And we spoke about it in terms of last year's draft too, with when the Giants tried to move up to get Jaden Daniels or Drake May and didn't work out because the other teams wouldn't do it. So it is still possible that the Giants land that franchise quarterback in the draft. And the other thing I'll say is, even if they don't end up with the first pick and they don't end up with their top quarterback choice, as we've seen over the last 6 years, there are a lot of cases where the first quarterback that was selected doesn't end up being the best quarterback of the group.
Or even the second quarterback selected.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round. He was the 5th quarterback taken in that year and is a 2-time NFL MVP. Last year, Drake May was the 3rd quarterback taken. Looks like Jaden Daniels probably had the best season so far. But again, Jaden Daniels was the 2nd quarterback taken. Drake May was the 3rd. Bo Nix was the 6th, and he's leading the Broncos to a playoff spot. So just because the Giants may not even get, the number one pick of quarterbacks doesn't mean that they can't still land a guy that could lead this franchise to where all of us want it to go to. So as John mentioned, as I mentioned, we get the frustration, but the results are what they are. So I'm always just one to try to, and I do this in my writing, I do this when I come on here, I try to focus on the bright spots because you can't change what's already happened. All you can do is try to build a team moving forward that is to the level of up to all of our standards of what we want and expect Giants football to be.
I agree, and I'll just say this too, and I'll leave it with this. And this is my effort to try to make you guys to feel a little bit better. And it goes, you stole half of my point, which I'm happy you did, where the top quarterback, the first guy taken is always the best one. And frankly, sometimes not getting the guy you're going after is the best thing too. I'm going to go back to, I've talked about this on the show before, the year the Dallas Cowboys drafted Dak Prescott. They tried to trade up for Paxton Lynch. They tried to draft Connor Cook. They settled on Dak Prescott. How'd that work out?
Pretty good for them.
I think it's worked out pretty good, right? A lot of this stuff is luck, right? Like, sometimes you pick the best guy you can get at a certain spot and it works out for you. Is that ideal? No. Would you rather just pick the guy you want? Yes, absolutely. But you just don't know. Could this be a year like the Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota draft, where the top 2 quarterbacks don't end up being great pros? And those guys won 2, 3. Winston, Mariota, they went 1 and 2 in that draft, correct? 1 and 2. So how'd that work out for those 2 teams? Not the best. I went through on the postgame show last night. Just scroll through all the teams that have had the top overall pick in the draft the last 4 years. It's not gone well. Jaguars had 2 top overall picks over that scan with Trevor Lawrence and Trayvon Walker. That did not go well. How are the Panthers doing when they traded for the top overall pick? How are the Bears doing with the top overall pick last year? Teams are all not doing very well. Now, you go back to the Bengals. They hit Joe Burrow. Worked great. So sometimes it helps. Sometimes it doesn't help as much as you might think.
You even bring up Joe Burrow, though, but go back to that draft. Justin Herbert was the 3rd quarterback taken.
Yeah.
At number 6.
Yeah. Tua was the 2nd guy picked at 5 in that draft, correct, by the Dolphins. So, look, it hurts. I get why it hurts. I get why it's frustrating. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the disaster that you are projecting that it's going to be.
I agree.
We don't know what this draft is going to look like. We don't know what these players are going to look like. Like, there's a chance Jalen Milroe declares for this draft, and in 3 years, he's the best quarterback in this year's draft. Like, that's possible. And I don't know when Jalen Milroe is going to go. He could be end of the 1st-round pick. I don't know. We'll have to see where that ends up, if he ends up coming out at all. We don't know the answer to that
As
question.
we see every year, between the season ending and the draft starting, quarterbacks rise. There's a guy and fall. But there is probably a guy that is not considered part of the top quarterback conversation right now that could easily end up being a top 5, a top 10 pick. Like, it happens every single year. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised. And you mentioned luck. Well, this obviously, if the Giants, let's say if the Giants lose on Sunday and end up 3-14, it would be the lowest win season in a long time. I'll leave it at that. In recent years, it's sort of, unfortunate luck that it also just happens to be this season,
right,
where there are so many teams that have that high loss total. Like, there are 9 teams with 12 losses, the most in any season in NFL history. The previous high was 7, and there are 9 teams that already have more than 12 losses.
And by the way, I will say this too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I don't think I am. While the Browns right now hold the tiebreaker against the Giants with strength of schedule, they're only separated by 11 hundredths of a point in terms of strength of schedule. So depending on how that last week goes, you could flip-flop that. Now, it's tough in the last week for the strength of schedule to change too much because all the teams you're playing are playing each other. So one team's going to get a win, one team's going to get a loss, and a lot of it's going to even out because all these division teams are playing each other, right? And that's just the way it goes. But to get a 0.011 change in strength of schedule against, that is very plausible in the final week of the year with the Browns and the Giants. So that tiebreaker could flop if they remain tied in the standings. So the Giants could move up or down. And now this is not going to be in the spirit of making everybody feel better. Eagles ain't playing anyone next week, boys and girls. You're going to see a bunch of guys you never heard of play for the Philadelphia Eagles next week. They are going to have all of their top players not playing, in my opinion. I know Saquon's going for a record. In my opinion, I don't think that's going to matter to them. I think they're trying to win a Super Bowl. And I think Saquon's trying to win a Super Bowl.
And he already got to 2,000, which is a very impressive feat.
And while a record would be great, they're locked into their spot. Giants could win next week. Like, this is not beyond the realm of possibility here. So just mentally prepare yourself for that potential feat next week, okay? Because that's very possible with the Eagles likely benching most of their top players in that game. So just keep that one in mind, too, as we head towards week number 18 and game 17 for the Giants. All right, let's open up the phones, 201-939-4513. We're here for your joy over the win. We're here for your vitriol over the draft position. Whichever you want to share with us, we're here for you right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. What do you got?
Quick point I just want to touch on, just because it's similar to you. I've gotten some comments since yesterday on Twitter. One thing I just want to clear up with the way that the draft order works with teams that are tied with the same record. If the Giants end up, let's say, with the 4th pick in the same record as the other 3 teams we talked about, while they will likely end up with the 4th pick in the first round, that changes after each subsequent round. So in the second round,
they rotate, correct.
They would have, I don't know if it just moves up one, so then they would have the 3rd pick in the second round.
I don't know if that's a lottery. I think that might be a lottery system in terms of how that works. It's a good question.
That part I'm not exactly sure. But if the Giants do end up 3-14, tied with the other 3 teams and with the 4th pick, that doesn't mean they have the 4th pick in every round after that. There's a chance that in the second round they could have the 1st pick or the 2nd pick. Again, we don't know exactly how that works, but I just wanted to clear that point up. That doesn't mean they'll have the 4th pick in every single round.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because that first pick on day 2 is huge too.
Yes, that ends up being one of the most valuable picks in the draft because everyone wants to. Not everyone. A lot of teams want to end up trading up to ensure that they get the guy that they are targeting and really want at the top of the 2nd round. So that pick ends up becoming pretty valuable whether you stay there or potentially trade down.
And it's not just it's the top couple picks in that 2nd round. Because, that first pick, there's going to be another guy left in the 2nd pick, and then you can trade down from there too. So you're right. Very good point, Matt. I did not think about that. Excellent point. Giants Huddle Podcast, Rapid Reactions up there right now. Madeline, who is Madeline with this week? Pearson, I don't even know. Sean O'Hara. That's up there right now. Later on today, Brian Baldinger will join for a final Baldy's breakdown of the season, talking with me, and where he's going to send over a Baldy's breakdown that'll show up on the Giants social and YouTube channels as well later on today. Little Malik Neighbors action. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, 201-939. That's, by the way, Giants.com/podcast. Search for Giants Huddle, Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. Jay in Phoenix will lead us off today. Jay, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. Your open was good and talked a little bit about the perspective on the draft picks and things like that. I'll be honest, it has been a roller coaster of a season. And to be honest, it is a little bit frustrating because, and not maybe for the reasons that you think, we were so bad that we get to the point where, we are hoping for a good draft pick because we hope that that's our only chance out of this. I don't know about you guys, but I watched both Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward play on Saturday. I'm a BYU. I went to BYU, so great to see my Cougars destroy Colorado.
BYU beat the out of Shedeur Sanders in that game. Oh, man.
Yeah, and Shedeur did not look good. And also all the hype all week about color of cleats and stuff like that. That's the nonsense that personally I don't want anywhere near the Giants. Then you got Cam Ward.
Cam Ward looked pretty darn good in that first half, though, Jay. I got to tell you.
Hell yeah. Cam Ward was great, but the thing is then he takes himself out of the game. So I still don't know what the story was there, and hope it's not what I think it is. But Cam Ward's been my guy for 2 years. I liked him up at Washington State as well. But why I'm saying I'm confused in how I feel. I love seeing our guys perform. Tracy and Malik are worth tuning in for. But all season I've listened to every podcast you guys have put out, and also everything on the Fan and all the other locations and fan sites and stuff like that. And we talk about we're here because we don't have good depth. Well, we won 45 to what was the score? Final score 30.
45-33.
35. And so that wasn't the problem yesterday, and execution wasn't the problem. But it's been problems in other weeks, and quarterback play wasn't the problem yesterday. But it's been the problem throughout the season. But we're to a point where the general manager heads being called for, the coach is heads being called for. Planes are flying over the building, and we get a win like that yesterday. And my question is where in the heck has that been all season? What we drafted Malik Neighbors for is what he did, and that's why I thought he'd be great with DJ, because he's going to be able to catch a short pass and take it, or whether it's the distance or just some sort of positive play. But where has it been? In our defense, we can say, the defense wasn't great yesterday, by the way. They were great in moments, but we're down Dexter, we're down Bobby O, we're down McFadden, we're down Newman, and it's been a struggle throughout the season with the guys grasping Bowen's defense. But what frustrates me is that we were so bad and got us to this point where everybody just wants everybody gone. And then we have a win like that yesterday, which was great. It was wonderful to see them play so well.
Well, Jay, that's why I called it in the open. I called it
frustrating.
I called it inexplicable. And so your question as to where has it been all year, I don't know. I don't. I wish I had an answer for you. I think some of it has to do with the opponent. Paul Dottino had a great stat in the pregame that no team has missed more tackles this year than the Colts. And it's like over 100 missed tackles this year. It's some ridiculous number. It's like off the charts big. So I think some of it had to do with the opponent. But why did Drew Lock have the best quarterback performance that any Giant player has had all year? I don't know.
In years.
Why did Malik Neighbors break more tackles in this game than he broke through like a 2-month stretch in the middle of the season? I don't know. I don't have those answers for you. Citak, do you?
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said about what Coach said with Drew Lock having his fourth start.
I agree with that. I do think with Lock starting his second straight game, Pearson, I think that's a good point. I think that does help actually having some continuity there, but I don't think it explains 5 touchdowns.
No, but Coach also said that, and I don't know how much.
And thank you for the call, Jay. Appreciate
I don't know how much this had to do with it, but Coach said that last week, after the Falcons game, after those 2 pick sixes that Drew Lock threw, that Coach went in pretty hard on Drew Lock throughout the week.
And Drew Lock said it after the game, too.
Yes, Drew Lock said it, too. And it probably had some, factor in Drew's performance.
And my guess is that Dable goes pretty hard on the quarterbacks after most games, one way or the other.
Yeah, but like this game in particular, they seem to both say openly, Coach even said, like, I laid pretty hard into him, and Drew said it himself as well. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. I think some of it, most of it, probably had to do, as you said, with the opponent. I mean, truly, that was just a miserable effort by the Colts defense throughout the game. Like, as we talked before, one of the worst defensive performances I've seen all season.
Ironically, the Giants did get outgained in this game by about 80 yards. I don't know if you looked at that.
Because they were winning all game, and Colts had to air it out and throw it out.
Special teams touchdown helped.
Special teams touchdown.
It
3 turnovers.
It wasn't a blowout, though. Look, it was 28-26 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And it was 35-33 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So,
no, for sure. But,
it wasn't like garbage time yards as my point.
Kickoff return touchdown obviously played a role. And then,
of course,
3 defensive takeaways compared to 0 turnovers on offense.
Well, that's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, the Colts finished with 446, Giants with 389. Colts had 20 more plays than the Giants, so that probably accounts for a lot of those yards for sure.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Just one very quick thing I just wanted to touch on it, which was not that Jay's main point at all.
Yeah,
but just about because I've seen this a lot since Saturday with Cam Ward and the whole playing the first half, not playing the second half. I think people might be forgetting that is exactly what Malik Neighbors did last year.
I mean, that's what Christian McCaffrey did.
That's what so many players have done. Like,
I don't like it. But it's just the way things are now.
It's more than, if they just sat out the bowl game altogether. Like, he went out there for a half, putting himself at risk and his potential future at risk for a half to help his team. And again,
help his team. And I think part of it was probably getting the record too, right?
For sure. 100%. But like, let's be clear. This wasn't the college football playoff. This was some random. Actually, I shouldn't say random.
How dare you,
The Pop-Tarts Bowl has become my favorite bowl game.
How dare you?
By far and away, it is my favorite bowl game. But in the grand scheme of things, it is not a college football playoff. They're not going for a national championship. And in the grand scheme of things, other than getting to eat a piece of Pop-Tart after the game, that game means absolutely nothing for the future of the program or anything like that.
It is the most American thing ever to bring the gigantic toaster onto the field and have the mascot jump
when they brought last year's back to life.
I know.
The best thing I've ever seen.
It is my favorite bowl game. Their game presentation is amazing. But in terms of the football aspect, it doesn't really mean much. So I've just seen so many people tear apart Cam Ward because of this decision. And I think it's truly one of the most absurd and silly things to criticize a player for I've seen in a long time.
Look, would my preference be that he played the whole game? Sure. But have we all been in a coma for the last 5 years?
Again.
That's what everyone has done this.
Malik Neighbors literally did it a year ago. And no one is saying, oh, the Giants shouldn't have drafted Malik Neighbors because he sat out the second half of the bowl game they were in. Like,
no, I
just wanted to
100%
touch on that because I've seen a lot of people talking about it on Twitter. And I think it's just absurd.
All right, let's go to Rob in Yonkers. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff 5. Hi, Rob.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. How are you,
Rob?
Well, first I want to say happy Victory Monday.
Thank you.
And I'm actually happy we won. I've been a fan for 46 years. I just felt like we needed a win. I have like my cousin and one of my buddies. They're both Giants fans, and they're angry right now. I call them angry Giants fans.
There are many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Actually, I was like, you guys are just so negative. I was like, so half of the time I don't even want to talk to them. I was like, why are you guys always so negative? Oh, but we should have won. I was like, we needed a win. The players needed a win. And to the last caller, he had a question. Where has this been all season? It's been here all season. It's just that we always shot ourselves in the foot. That was just the main issue. Every time we had a good game, we'll do something to mess the game up, fumble the ball in the red zone or throw interception in the red zone area. So
well, Rob,
really
real quick, real fast, stick with me. The benchmarks that I've looked at in every one of these games, the Giants hit him, and Brian Dable talked about it in his post-game press comments, right? They finally won the turnover battle. 3-0 first time all year. Check box number 1. Check box number 2. Red zone. Giants 2 of 3 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. 67%, right? Good job out of the Giants in the red zone. They won the big play battle. The Giants had 6 plays of 30 yards or more in this game. The Giants, before this, the most 30-yard plays they had in a game this year was 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. No other game did they have 3 or more plays of 30 more yards in the game. They had 6 in this game. All year, the Giants, before this game, had 6 completions of 30 or more yards. They had 5 in one game. 5! Right? So you got big plays that score touchdowns. You score touchdowns in the red zone. You won the turnover battle. That's how you win football games. It's 3 things that they've failed to do all year long, and they finally, Rob, managed to do it in that game, and that's why they're able to win.
Did it? I don't know. 2 seasons ago, didn't we either beat the Colts or spoil their plans for playoffs?
I don't know if they
sure.
2 years ago they blew out the Colts in the home finale, I believe. Right in 2022 was also the home finale,
which clinched the playoff spot.
It clinched it for the Giants. I don't think the Colts were playing for a playoff spot in that game. I don't remember what the Colts record was, but yeah, in 2022 the Giants did beat the Colts in their home finale.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as me, what happens with the draft is just gonna happen. And just like you guys said, we might get a quarterback that hasn't been named yet, and he might happen to be that quarterback. You never know. But again, I'm one of the happy Giants fans, and I'm happy we just won. The only thing I'm gonna just say, again, next week the game's not gonna count for the Eagles, so it's like we can't really show like what we really want to show if we was playing. I wish we were playing someone else that they wanted to get into the playoffs as well.
Nah, Rob, I got you, man. Appreciate the call, dude. And by the way, I don't bring up because you brought up the Cam Ward point, which I thought was a good one. I've heard other people say, "Well, do you know how you figure? Do you know how you don't tank, but you just don't play Malik Neighbors, and that's how you win the game. He's hurt. Why would you play Malik Neighbors? Oh, just sit Malik Neighbors." So the lesson you want to teach your rookie wide receiver that we've had many people call up and be like, "Well, I'm afraid this guy's a diva. I don't know, man. Like, I'm worried about what he says post game. I'm worried about this guy." And I think he's shown a lot of maturation in how he's been addressing the media in the last month too. I think he's the second youngest player in the league. Braylon Allen, I believe, is the only player that's younger than him, correct? The running back for the Jets. So the message you want to send to your rookie wide receiver who clearly wants to go out there and play is to say, "No, sit down. Don't play through your injury. Just put a bow on the season. Go home. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We don't need to win games." That's the message you want to send to your rookie wide receiver in his rookie year? That winning games and going out there and trying to play through pain, that doesn't matter? I'd be very careful about something like that.
Yeah, I
very careful.
Agree with you completely.
And that's probably the same group complaining about Cam Ward sitting out the second half of a bowl game, by the way. Yeah. So try to square that circle, okay?
Yeah. I mean, look, as you mentioned, Malik Neighbors is 21 years old. He turned 21, I believe, right before the start of training camp. So he's going to turn 22 right before his second season begins. He is still very young, obviously. And he has shown a lot of maturity as the season has gone on, I feel like. There were some moments, post-game locker room earlier in the season where I guess he just didn't answer questions to the media as
express himself as he would have liked to, and he said things that I think got interpreted ways that he did not want them to be interpreted.
Exactly, and he's certainly gotten better at that as the season has gone on, despite most of the time the losing continuing, obviously up until yesterday. But point being, he's still very, very young, and in terms of his, I guess, like maturity and just overall demeanor, like he's still pretty raw.
He's figuring things in rookie.
Exactly. So you want, as you mentioned, this guy who clearly is a very big part of your future.
And a gamer. He's a freaking
absolute
gamer.
Baller. Like, for this team to have success moving forward, he's going to have to play a very big part in that, obviously. You want this guy to go through whatever rookie bumps he has to in that first season whether it's on or off the field, and then put it all behind you moving forward. As you go into year number 2, year number 3, and beyond, you want all of this, I don't want to call it nonsense, but off the field mishigas to happen, put it in the rearview mirror, and have him just focus on going out there each and every week, moving forward, and doing what he can to help this team win. Because that's what you want every single one of your players to be doing.
And by the way, referencing the Diva stuff, that was people that called with that question for us. That's nothing that we brought up on our end, just for the record. But if you heard him after the game speak to the media, he sounded like a different person. And Pearson, you cut the post-game media availability, so you could speak to this. Did he even resemble the same person that you heard talk during all the losses over the last 2 months?
No, not at all.
It was like hearing a completely different person talk. So what I learned from that is that guy doesn't just love winning, which I think was really important to him to win that game if you just hear him after the game. And the way he turned it into a team victory, by the way, and didn't make it about him, kept giving his teammates credit for a lot of the stuff that happened in the win. That dude hates losing. Because the way he talks about the game after losses compared to how he talks to games after wins, that shows, wins are happy and makes him happy, but losing bothers him, right? And you could just go back, folks, do a comparison. Go watch some of his media stuff after losses and compare to what he looked like yesterday at the podium after the win. Night and day, which is what it's supposed to be. He's had really good productions after losses. Still unhappy.
Yeah.
But now after the win, all of a sudden, very happy because they won the game.
You want a locker room filled with guys that absolutely hate losing and want to do everything in their power each and every week to make sure that does not happen. That is what you want in your locker room. Obviously, the circumstances surrounding yesterday's game are unique in a sense and not something that you deal with every single week in terms of draft order and all that. But at the end of the day, you want a locker room filled with guys that are like that hate losing more than anything else, and that would put teams' accomplishments over their own individual accomplishments every Sunday. That's what you want.
That's what you want. All right, let's go to Lennon.
Just seeing some news here.
Oh, what do you got?
Just in terms, since this has been a big part of the conversation
please, what do you
today,
got?
Titans coach Brian Callahan said that both Will Levis and Mason Rudolph will play in Sunday's finale. Sort of seems like this could be Will Levis's, I don't want to say last shot, but an opportunity for him to show that he can be a part of Tennessee's future.
I think that boat might be out of the dock already, but
For sure. But if he goes out and has a great game again against a Texans team that has nothing to play for, maybe they sneak out a victory in this game because it seems like they're clearly going to be trying to win. Again,
Brian Callahan does not seem like the coach to me that's going to call dogs off in a situation like this.
So
offensive line coaches, they don't pull punches.
Just a situation to monitor.
Yeah, but who knows?
See who the Texans have nothing to play for. They are set.
Correct.
In the 4th seed, nothing is changing. They're going to have a big game next week against likely one of the AFC North teams, which is going to be a dogfight. Maybe the Texans rest some guys to gear up for that game. Who knows? But I just saw the news and thought I'd share because that is...
Which opens a window where if that happens, the strength of schedule flops for the Browns with the Giants, only, again, 0.011 away. You could be picking second. Yeah. So who knows? In other words, the don't freak out train continues to roll down the tracks. We'll see how it goes. We still got another week to figure out exactly where we're going to be. All right, let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland now. Len, did you come up for the game yesterday?
Yeah, no, I didn't, John. I had some family obligations, but I did watch it. I have the ticket.
Len, it's funny. As it turns out, I thought it was going to be miserable weather with the rain. It turned out to be like the best weather game all year, which is the funny thing.
It was lovely. Pretty good. It
looked
pretty good. Happy New Year to both of you.
You too, Len.
Thank
you. Let me offer a positive critique, if I may.
Of us or the team?
You guys are apologizing for the win too much. That was pretty good.
I'm not apologizing for the win.
I thought you started off. You were talking about people who were disappointed in the win. How can you be disappointed in? I don't understand how anybody can be disappointed in the win.
Len, I would just suggest you go back and listen to the calls that I got on the postgame show yesterday and look at my Twitter feed.
John, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. That was pretty good. I tell you, I felt good yesterday. I feel good the day after. I'm going to feel good all week, and I'm going to hope for a win on Sunday against the Eagles.
Well, that's good, Len. I'm happy to hear that.
And listen, they can't bench everybody, John. They only got 3 tackles on the team.
That is true.
One of the starters has to play.
Well, they can always call someone over the practice squad if they want, Len.
Okay, hey, positives on the game. Good for the quarterback. You know, he's gonna find work in the NFL off this game. That's pretty. He was really good yesterday. Really good.
Now he was helped a lot by some wide receivers making some big runs on some short passes. But yes, Drew Lock. He also made some really nice throws down the field
Neighbors
too.
was next.
Yep.
Boy, the short area moves, getting past people.
Yep.
And the speed down the sidelines would have been right in front of me.
Yep.
That's real speed.
That's special.
That's field speed. That's game speed. That's not 40 at the combine. And he looked like he carried that speed all the way to the end zone.
And he got the top speed
like
very.
He could have run another 100 yards.
And he got the top speed quick, Led. It wasn't like rev up and he got there in 10 yards. He started and he got there fast.
He got there. He started fast and he sustained it.
Correct.
And got there. Yeah. And hey, Matt, Dane Belton.
That's a heck of a catch.
I've been critical, but sometimes there are plays. Sometimes they happen in the first quarter. Sometimes they happen in the fourth quarter. Everybody raves about the fourth quarter plays, but that was a huge play yesterday. On that
set the tone for the whole game, Len. Where for the first time all year, Giants players actually made above the X's and O's plays.
It's just a very athletic play, but also he made it. He hung on to the ball. And if you look back at it and you say if this had happened, then it would have been different. But the Colts drive down the field and score. Maybe everything changes. You go back to the bench, you don't feel so good. But that was an uplifting play. That was a terrific play.
And I talked about some individual plays. How about the 2 fourth down stops? Those are 2 huge plays on 4th and 1s. I don't know what the hell Jonathan Taylor was doing on the 3rd and 1 when he ran to the sideline and didn't even try to reach the ball out. I don't know what he was doing on that.
He saw Brian Burns coming at him and maybe got a little scared.
You have to reach that ball out if you're Jonathan Taylor. But again, it's little plays, Len, that they haven't made during the course of the year. They made those plays in this game, every single one of them.
Yeah, and Burns and Thibodeau, with regard to the pass rush, when was the last time we were in the second half or even in the fourth quarter and we're playing from ahead?
That's nice, right?
If you're a Hall of Fame quality pass rusher, Max Crosby, a Watt, it doesn't make any difference what the situation is. But when you can pin your ears back because your team's got a lead, man, you begin to pad your rush statistics, your hurries, your sacks themselves. You play ahead, man. Thibodeau and Burns are going to be tough to deal with if we're playing from ahead in that fourth quarter. I thought they were quite good yesterday. The reality of the situation, it's coming off a 10-game losing streak, terrible. Once in a century, right? The defensive statistics, even the offensive statistics, when matched up against the rest of the league, we got a lot of problems. But look, if Brissett plays this weekend, if Levis plays this weekend, if Mariota plays this weekend, they're all auditioning. And if the quarterback's not there for us, and we need a bridge for a year or two, maybe it's a guy like that who thinks they can still play in the NFL, who feel like they are still starting caliber guys. Maybe that's the kind of guy we get as a bridge. I'm not ruling out going for.
What do you think of Paul Dottino's choice for a bridge quarterback, Len?
I'm sorry?
What do you think of Paul Dottino's choice for a bridge quarterback?
I missed it. Who was it?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Right. Tannehill's out there. He hasn't played all year, but look at Bridgewater. Bridgewater thinks he can still start in this league.
Yeah, he signed with who? The Lions?
Yeah, he signed with the Lions, right?
Yeah.
Not that he's going to start with the Lions, but it's the way to work your way back into it. If necessary, we do that, and we go somewhere. If we're out around 8 or 9, don't laugh at me now. And I know Joe Schoen won't do this, but if we're out with the 7th, 8th, or 9th pick, What about the running back from Boise State? That guy is good.
Len, I will say
Joe
this.
Won't do it. Joe won't do
no,
it.
I don't think Joe's gonna do that. Len, we got to run, man. I got 2 other calls I want to get to. All right, appreciate the call, my friend. Feel free to call back later in the week if you want. Yeah, I don't think we're looking at a top 10 running back pick.
No, I don't think so. This is
Especially
also,
with the way Tyron Tracy's played.
Yeah, and as you know, this is also supposed to be a pretty good and deep running back draft. You don't need to. I mean, as great as he is, and he is fantastic, you don't need to take one of the top 10 in order to get a good running back.
No, you might have 4
this
or
year.
5 go like in the second round this year. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be a really good class.
Let's see, to touch on just a couple of those points because it was kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, it was a lot.
To start, I will say that I don't think John and I don't think we were up here apologizing for the win. All we're saying is that
We understand.
we get the frustration from some of the fan base that aren't happy with the win. That's all we were trying to say.
Yes.
We understand where that frustration is coming from.
We like to be nuanced and provide context on the show. That's
Yes.
all we were trying to
We're
do.
not trying to
Correct.
sugarcoat things. So just putting that out there. In terms of the pass rush, I thought Len brought up a great point that this was really the first time almost all season, at least in months, that we got to see the pass rush really pin their ears back and get after the quarterback.
Dude, first
And-
time they've had a halftime lead since Cleveland.
Yeah, and would you look at that?
Cleveland!
Brian Burns and Kayvon
Cleveland.
Thibodeau combined for 11 pressures. They are in Joe Flacco's face all game.
Yeah. Burns, I thought, was especially excellent.
Yeah, Burns, again.
Thibodeau had a couple late pressures, but I thought Burns really
Yeah,
threw
Kayvon
it.
had the splash play at the end, obviously, with the strip sack, which looked very similar to Burns' strip sack in Cleveland in Week 3.
And
that
boy,
sealed
Burns
the game.
just missed one. It was in the
I
third
know.
quarter.
He went for the ball.
Flacco didn't even see him there,
know.
and he was like an inch away from hitting
If
Flacco's
he had
arm.
gone for just Flacco himself, I think he would have had the easy sack, but he went for the big splash
Yeah.
play strip sack, and unfortunately he just missed Flacco's arm.
Did someone get a hand on the ball with the Phillips interception too?
Burns hit the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Burns hit the quarterback, which forced the ball to go up in the air.
But yeah, Burns, according to Next Gen Stats, Burns had 6 pressures on 28 pass rushes.
He was really good.
Including 4 that he got to the quarterback in under 2.5 seconds.
And
The
he
quick
yeah,
pressure.
and he was good against the run too in the game, by the way. He's been good against the run all
3
year.
tackles for loss from Burns as well. That is one guy. Talk about guys that are not giving up and still giving it 110%. Brian Burns has been playing through I don't even know how many injuries all year and is still performing at a near elite level, not quite at the level of some other of the very top of the league edge rushers, but
I'm going to look up some advanced stats. I want to see where he
pretty dang
ranks.
good with how he's been doing. And again, in a season where there's nothing to play for but pride now, I think talk about, and I know some of you don't want to hear it, but just a bright spot. Brian Burns is under contract for 4 more years after this. He's shown that he can be a team's number 1 edge rusher on a good defense. So I'm very excited to see him continue to develop. I mean, he's just entering or in his prime now. He's going to be with the Giants through his prime years. I am very excited to see what Brian Burns can continue to do as part of this Giants defense. Because he's
Absolutely.
truly just been one of the few bright spots from week 1 until now.
No question about it. He's a pressure rate of 14%, which is pretty strong. If you're on 15%, usually you're in very good territory. For example, Danielle Hunter, who is 12 sacks, he's at 14.5%. Nick Benito is 14%. So he's kind of right in that range with a lot of those other guys. So again, not in that top group with Michael Parsons and stuff like that, but he's also moving against the run, and to your point, he's not playing with leads. So it's a lot tougher to get those pressures when teams are running a play action, you're max protecting, you're running the ball a lot. It becomes difficult.
It was really just the second time the Giants had a lead late in the fourth quarter, because even that Seahawks win, which they did have a lead, the play that sealed the game was the field goal block that they returned for a touchdown, which Seattle was kicking to tie the game.
Yeah, correct.
And that gave the Giants the 2-possession lead. This was the first time that they really had that lead for, most, if not all, most of the second half, and can really, in the pass rush, pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. The last time we really saw that was week 3 against the Browns, where the Giants, again, had a great day as a pass rushing unit. So hopefully next year, the defense, or the Giants overall, will be playing with more late leads so we can see a little bit more of this pass rush. Because yesterday's game, even though they only ended up with 2 sacks, I think, on the day, that was the pass rush that we saw for the first half of the season that was leading the league in sacks and on pace to like shatter the NFL all-time record for sacks. That's the pass rush that we saw yesterday.
Mostly a perimeter pass rush, though. Nacho did have the one in the first half, but it was a lot of stuff on the outside. You're still not getting as much inside push, but of
which
course,
is not a surprise without Dexter Lawrence playing.
Correct.
So,
Brian in Virginia. Brian, you're up next. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how you doing? Happy New Year.
You too.
You too.
Thanks. Just really one point to make. I was happy about the win yesterday, and I think any fans who are upset about the win are really letting Joe Shane off the hook. And Matt, you alluded to this earlier in the show. It's his job to go out and get us the players that we need. It's not the players' job who are on the field to tank games. And anybody who's ever competed for anything should know nobody else is going to tank a football game. So it's Joe Shane's job to get us the player that we need, whether we're in the first spot, the fourth spot, the 15th spot. So that's the only point I want to make. We're not, as a fan, I'm not letting him off the hook. He has a job to do, and he needs to go out and do it. That's my only point. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the call. Look,
thanks, Brian.
No matter where you pick, find the good player, right? That's just taking all your Joe Shane stuff aside. Just wherever you're picking, there's always going to be a good player there. Just find the good player and pick him.
Yeah, I agree. Like, look, the Giants, I'm pretty sure no matter what, are guaranteed to have a top 10 pick, top 8 or 9, I think, no matter what.
Yes, I believe that is
likely,
correct.
You know, even if they win on Sunday, likely a top 7.
They cannot drop below 9th because the Saints have 5 wins. They're picking 10th, so they obviously can't drop below the Saints at 10.
Okay.
And I'm sure some of these teams are playing each other, so there's got to be another area.
Let's just say top 7 or 8 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't go quarterback there, as you mentioned, you're going to get one of the top position players in this draft then. And as we've talked about, again, for probably close to 2 months now, we don't know how the Giants are going to address the quarterback position this offseason. Obviously, there will be at least one, if not multiple, new guys in the quarterback room. Obviously, because right now, no one is under contract in the quarterback room for 2025, although Tommy DeVito can be brought back pretty easily, but still, right now, no one's under contract. So there will be some change to that room. We don't know how they are going to address it in the offseason. Let's not forget, Sam Darnold, who has led the Vikings to a 14-2 record, and if they win on Sunday against the Lions, 15-2 record with the number 1 seed in the NFC, was signed to a 1 year, was it $4 million deal this past offseason? And look what he has done. Have an amazing year. The Steelers signed Russell Wilson to a minimum deal. I get he had the offset language stuff in his contract from the Broncos, so that's why he signed for so little. But point being, the Vikings and Steelers have found quarterbacks that have led them to the playoffs this year in free agency and on deals that were very reasonable to the team. Even if the Giants don't end up in a position where they can draft one of these quarterbacks this year with a top 3, top 4 pick, that doesn't mean that they won't be able to find a quarterback that can help lead this team to, a successful season next year and beyond. There are many different ways to find and address the quarterback position. It's not only you have to draft a guy at the very top of the first round and that's it. That's the only way of finding a quarterback. As we see every year in the NFL, there are a lot of different ways to find quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield led the Bucs to second straight playoff spot now because the Falcons lost. Second straight division title likely if they win on Sunday. And he was tossed aside by 4 different teams. So just point being, there are a lot of different ways to find a quarterback, even if it doesn't happen at the very top of the draft this upcoming year, which it still could. No matter how it goes on Sunday or no matter where the Giants finish in the draft, they still could go out, trade up, and get one of those top 2 quarterbacks. But there are many different ways to address the position. It is a position that clearly will be addressed in the offseason. We don't know exactly how, but we have seen quarterbacks that were tossed aside by multiple different teams go somewhere else, lead that team into the playoffs.
I saw a picture yesterday of Darnold and Baker on the Panthers together.
Exactly.
And it was shocking.
2 years ago.
That's crazy. Yeah.
2 years ago, Darnold and Baker Mayfield were members of the Panthers, and now look at them. So there are many ways to address the position. What we do know for sure is that no matter who the Giants take in the first round of this upcoming draft, as you mentioned, they are going to get a great player, one way or the other.
Yep. All right, let's go to Coach Marvin in Delaware. He's going to wrap us up today. Coach,
Happy holiday, guys.
what's up?
Hey, Coach.
Hey, just listening. I'm kind of, I'm gonna be. I'm a little selfish. I wanted both. I wanted to win, and I wanted the number one pick.
Well, that would be nice, right?
I know I can't have both, but hey, I can want. It doesn't mean I can't want. I was just listening to Matt when he was just. You guys was right pretty much on everything you said. I think the callers all had good points, and everybody had good points today. There's going to be people that were happy with the win, and people that's not. And I think it was Matt that says, if you want to be mad at the coach because they didn't perform. Because you have to perform. The word tank needs to be removed. I don't know why we keep using it, because the league is based on integrity. And they don't want teams going out there laying down and letting other teams win. I always kind of compare it to shaving points, which is a federal offense. A basketball game, you can't go out there and on purposely start shooting and missing on purpose so you can meet the point spread. It's too much money involved for them to say tanking, because of people betting on the games, people spending money to come see the game. And you don't want fans saying that the Super Bowl is fixed. So that's why that word tanking should be removed. Real quick, Tim, Matt was comparing some of the other quarterbacks, and you're right. Quarterbacks, you can get them any kind of way. Sometimes people draft two. Just recently, Atlanta paid one and drafted one. So there's different ways to get them. I don't know if we can get them like these other teams have done, because we're not good enough. Minnesota, they got Donald, but look at the people they have on their roster. So a lot of these guys go to a really good roster and a really good foundation, and that's why they perform. And my last thing I want to say was my emotions been so crazy this weekend. Really upset in the sense of the game from a coaching standpoint. I mean, you pay guys millions of dollars. I don't know if you realize this, John, or not, but the going for it on fourth down is just getting ridiculous. I don't know what's going on there and why everybody's going for it on fourth down, like do or die in the first quarter on fourth down. And it's costing them games because they're chasing points when they don't make it. So that's been frustrating this weekend. I see it in the college game, and I'm seeing it in the NFL this weekend a lot. And cornerback play, it's horrible. Everybody's playing the man, and nobody's playing the ball. I've seen it in college this weekend a lot, and I'm seeing it in the pros. That's where the grabbing is coming. Banks is doing it a lot. He plays the man rather than the ball. That's why he gets his hands involved so much. And I don't know if one or two things is happening. Either they're not teaching it and addressing it, or the player's not listening, and both of those are wrong. So hopefully they can fix those things. But that's all I had today, guys.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I will say this. Again, Deontay Banks is in good coverage on these plays. He's right there. He's running with the receivers, and he just grabs and pulls and doesn't get his head around. It's very frustrating because he's clearly physically able to do it and is physically able to play really good coverage because he's there. He just doesn't finish these plays with the proper technique. He's got to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. At one point I wanted to touch on that Coach Marvin brought up is to my previous, what I was saying before after the last caller about different ways to find a quarterback, and I mentioned Sam Darnold and Russell Wilson. Coach Marvin brought up a good point. The Minnesota Vikings and Pittsburgh Steelers, the rest of their roster outside of the quarterback position right now is better than the Giants roster. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb here when you consider the records of those two teams. Pretty obvious. But if you're, let's say, I'm just using this for an example because it's the closest thing we're going to get to a Russell Wilson situation last year. Kirk Cousins, who reports are saying he could be let go by the Falcons, and due to the offset language, next year, whatever team he signs for would be a minimum contract. If you're looking at a situation with the Giants where, you have Malik Neighbors, you have Tyrone Tracy, The offensive line, which again, the first 6 weeks before Andrew Thomas went down, looked like it had taken a big step compared to last year. If the Giants go out and, sign an offensive lineman and you tell Kirk Cousins, we have the 4th pick in the draft, we're going to take the top, let's just say, hypothetical, the top wide receiver in the draft and pair that guy with Malik Neighbors, you're going to tell me that is not an appealing situation for a quarterback? Having 2 top 6 picks, a rookie and a second-year guy, a talented running back, at the very least, a solid offensive line. Like, to me, for just in terms of the quarterback, not the rest of the roster, that is a pretty appealing offensive situation that I think a lot of guys would be interested in being a part of.
My guess is that there'll be enough competitions for Cousins, given all the teams that are quarterback needing next offseason, that it's going to be more than
I was just using him as a hypothetical. It goes for any of the free agent quarterbacks that are going to hit the market this offseason, not just Kirk Cousins.
No, I'm with you on that. I just think there's going to be a lot of open seats in the game of musical chairs, and there's only so many people walking around those chairs to sit in them.
It's true, but there are also probably quarterbacks that are under contract right now that are going to be let go from their current teams
for sure,
adding more supply out there. The demand will be high, but there could be a surplus in supply as well. So that is a conversation for the offseason.
My friend, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Enjoy your New Year. Matt will be back with me on Thursday. Tomorrow I'll be with Madeline Burke, and we'll take more of your calls at 201-939-4513 right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Happy New Year's to everybody out there. Again, we'll be on tomorrow. No show on Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, we will be back. And Brian Baldinger coming up on the Giants Huddle podcast by the end of the day today, and other stuff coming your way this week, too. Draft season's Thursday this week. We want to do it after round 2 of the college football playoffs. Hopefully, the games will be better than round 1 of the college football playoffs. So stay tuned for all of that. Giants Hangout coming up. I believe that's going up tomorrow. Correct, Pearson? So that's coming up, too. So a lot coming your way in terms of content this week, folks. And one more game to go, and then we get the off-season content. It'll be a lot of free agency stuff, a lot of draft stuff, as we continue to keep you covered with the New York Football Giants all off-season long. For Matthew Citak, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time, everybody.